Well, welcome in, everybody, and happy Canada Day to all my brothers and sisters up there north of the border. Hope you all are enjoying the holiday, and thank you for checking out this free agency edition of Pucks from the Pine Tree Pod. I'm your host, Benjamin Kennedy. Do appreciate you all being here. We have got a lot to talk about today, all sorts of news from this afternoon, and of course, there'll be a lot more news throughout the evening and into the next few days. And oh man, did Sweeney and the Boston Bruins have they got the Boston media guys all riled up today? They're all worked up down there. Guys, man, drink a little bit of water, take a Pepsi AC. We're all gonna be okay. We're all gonna get through this. We'll get through this together. We got a lot to dive into, so let's get after it, boys and girls. First, we're going to start with some of the news that hasn't broken yet. Nikolai Ehlers, no deal yet. A lot of talk earlier today that this may take 2 or 3 days, perhaps, or maybe just up until tomorrow. But Ehlers is really the big fish left on the market and has a lot of suitors, including his team that he's with right now, the Winnipeg Jets, that he's just coming out of that contract with. We're hearing Washington, we're hearing Carolina, we're hearing Tampa Bay, all heavy in on him. I'm sure he has a lot of vetting out to do to find out kind of where he wants to land. He feels like a Tampa Bay type of player. I could see him in a Lightning uniform. His style of play, I think, really fits what they do. That won't be a surprise at all if he ends up there. Carolina could use more goal scoring. Of course, he was high on my list for Boston. We know that's not going to happen now. But yeah, that's kind of the big fish we're all waiting for. Probably won't see anything today. It'll probably be tomorrow, if not into later in the week. We're also hearing about a potential trade for Bo Byram. Byram from Buffalo is on the market. No details yet, but that's being rumored and has been talked about for the past couple of days. Listen, guys, I'm not going to go through every single transaction today because I don't want to bore you with all the numbers and everything like that. I'm going to pick out a handful here that I want to talk about. And then we'll certainly spend some time looking at the Boston Bruins and break down some of what they did today. We will start up in Vancouver. A couple of re-signings, actually three re-signings for them today. Thatcher Demko, their goaltender, re-signing a 3-year deal, 8.5 million per season. An off-injured goaltender, but can be an excellent goaltender when he's healthy. There was some talk that they might move off of him, but he's sticking around. So good to see that. Connor Garland getting done as well. 6-year contract, 6 million per season for him. And probably the surprise of the day is Brock Boeser. Brock Boeser sticking around 7 years, 7.25 million per season for him. Listen, I thought he was as good as gone. I think we all thought he was as good as gone. He gave a very heartwarming kind of goodbye message at the end of the season and has had his ups and downs there. He's a very good player, been there a long time, so he is sticking around and could be a Canuck for life. So, listen, Canuck fans, how surprised are you by this signing? How surprised are you that Brock is sticking around? Is this enough for this team to bounce back after what was a pretty tough year last year? You got a new head coach now. You got a good bit of the guys coming back. How are you guys feeling out there in Vancouver? Of course, we already know that Mitch Marner traded and is now in Vegas signing that 8-year contract, 12 million per season. We do know that this has been talked about for a while. There was potential tampering, perhaps, but Vegas does make it a trade, so some of that tampering talk can go away. He's going to look really good out there. He's the shiny new toy. This is what Vegas does, right? They kind of keep doing what they do. They looked slow last year. End of the year, going up against Edmonton, they definitely look slow. Marner's going to help with that, give them a big time scoring punch. You put him with Eichel and the rest of that team, it's going to be scary. Going to be scary. And for Toronto, I mean, how are you feeling today? I mean, I guess you've been prepared for this. You knew you were losing this guy. You at least get something back in return with Nick Roy. But man, I feel like Marner's going to be one of those guys. He's going to be appreciated more after he's gone, right? I know, and we talked about it a few episodes ago that all the struggles in the playoffs. Well, again, show me a Toronto Maple Leaf core player that has good numbers in the playoffs. And as we highlighted, Marner has the most points of the top 4 or 5 guys out there in the playoffs. So I think they're really going to miss him. I really do. Now they gives them some cap flexibility. Now they can go out and do some other things. We'll see how it goes, right? We'll see how it goes. But as mentioned, Toronto does get Nick Roy back in that trade. They do resign Tavares and Matthew Nyes, so both of those guys locked up, and they do add Michael Pezzetta, former Canadian, to a 2-year contract at just over the league minimum there. Um, Kind of a fourth line knucklehead type of type of player that every team needs. So he is just moving over there to Toronto. Of course, we got to talk about Florida, right? We can't skip over Florida. They kind of bringing the band back together. Bennett's redone 8 years times 8 million per season. Ekblad 8 years and 6.1, and Brad Marchand, of course, being announced 6 years and 5.25 million for Brad. Really closing the chapter fully. Really closing the chapter for the Boston Bruins in this kind of era, this Chara, Bergeron, Krejci, Marchand type era for the Bees. I didn't see him coming back. I'm not surprised he's not coming back, but there was some smoke around this the past couple of days. Now with him there, we can, as a Bruins fan, we can finally close that chapter and hopefully get excited about this new chapter of what we're going to see here in Boston. We may have to be a little bit patient. I do think patience will be virtuous here if you're a fan of the Boston Bruins. And let's just be thankful he's not a Maple Leaf, because there was some talk of him maybe going to Toronto. It stinks seeing him in a Florida uniform. I'm not going to lie, but at least he's not in a Toronto uniform, and I think I can take a moment of solace over that. Uh, the Florida Panthers also get Jeff Petrie today. I don't have the terms on that deal, but he is being added to that group. And yeah, we'll see. Is Florida going to three-peat this thing? Are they going to go back a fourth time? I mean, if they can stay healthy, I don't see why not. I don't see why not. But yeah, be curious to see how that goes. And we know, listen, this 6-year deal for Marchand, the term really threw me off a little bit at first, but they're spreading the money out. Marshy's not playing until he's 43. I don't think there's any way he plays until he's 43, guys. But they can always buy out the last couple of years of that contract. But this is a way for them to get the money in, make it work within the parameters of the salary cap, and keep the band back together. All right, some other news here. Of course, Edmonton, they get Evan Bouchard redone, 4 years, 10.5 per for him. So a nice piece of business there. An Edmonton team that has lost a lot of players today. They've lost some depth. Be very curious to see how they answer that, how they fill in the blanks there for themselves. And can they make another run? They've been 2 years in a row. Can they get back there for a third straight year? The LA Kings have been very, very busy today. Kuzmenko gets redone, 1 year, 4.3 for him. Corey Perry, one of those former Edmonton Oilers, going over for a 1 year, 3.5 million contract. Armia heading over from Montreal, 2 years at 2.5 million. And then Cody Ceci coming up from Dallas, 4 years and 4.5 million for him, heading to LA. The goalie Forsberg, Anton Forsberg, on 2 years, 2.25 million. And Biddeford Maine's own Brian Dumoulin gets a 3-year contract at 4 million AAV for him, of course, coming from New Jersey, where he ended last season. We talked about him in my last episode there with Lucas McNally in terms of players from Maine, and I do think he's one of the best pro hockey players that we've seen out of this state. So good to see him continuing to get work, and that's a nice, healthy contract for himself. A couple former Boston Bruins signing today with Detroit. Ian Mitchell getting a 1 year, 775 minimum contract there with the Red Wings, and James Van Riemsdyk continuing to get work for himself. 1 year deal, $1 million. And of course, Patrick Kane got redone there as well, 1 year at $3 million. They also just recently, a few days ago, traded for John Gibson, the goaltender from Anaheim. So, can he be the answer in net for the Red Wings moving forward? Any Red Wing fans out there, I'd love to hear from you on that. He's been another player that, has been in every rumor mill for the past, I feel like 3 or 4 years. So he finally gets moved. And maybe he answers that question for Detroit. Going over to Winnipeg, of course, Jonathan Toews coming out of retirement, getting a 1 year deal there, $2 million. This was reported about a week ago that he was coming back out. He is from the area. I believe he's from the area, so he's going home. And another former Boston Bruin, Cole Koepke, getting a 1 year deal, $1 million there to head up to the Jets. So good luck to Cole. He had such a great start to the season last year. Scoring definitely fell off, but he was a very exciting player for the Bees last season. We're going to kind of skip around here a little bit. Washington gets Faravari redone, 7 years, 6 million there. And in Carolina, they get Logan Stankoven, a big piece going off for that Rantanen trade with Dallas. He gets an 8 year deal, 6 million per season. They also sign Amir Miftakov, goaltender from the KHL. He gets a 1 year, two-way contract. So another Russian goaltender. We'll see how that looks. And we are still waiting, at least at the time of recording, we are waiting for the all the particulars of the Keandre Miller trade. Carolina picking up Keandre Miller from the New York Rangers. It's looking like draft compensation coming back, but I haven't seen all the details on that one yet. Let's see here. The Devils, they do get Jared Allen redone there. The goaltender staying put on a 5 year deal, 1.8 million per season for Allen. So good backup there, veteran of the league. And another former Edmonton Oiler, Connor Brown, coming over to New Jersey on a 4 year deal, $3 million AAV there for him. So good one there. Going to Philadelphia, Christian Dvorak gets a 1 year deal, 5.4 million per season. Another former Bruin, Dan Vladar, goaltender there coming out of Calgary, gets a 2 year contract, 3.35 million. He'll have a chance to compete for that starting role. Philly has been such a mess in net. Not sure if Vladar's the answer, but at least it makes the room hopefully a little bit more competitive for them moving forward. Just looking here, there's significant signings. William Eklund, he gets a renewed contract there in San Jose. Of course, great young emerging player, 3 year deal for him, 5.6 million per season. And Gavrikov, part of the Keandre Miller trade, him being traded out of town, is Gavrikov coming into town from LA. Gets a 7 year deal, $7 million per season. This one was wildly rumored and speculated as well. Pair him up with Adam Fox. Are the Rangers just going to bounce right back to the playoffs? We'll see how it goes. But was a guy high on many people's lists, and he ends up with the Rangers. Let's see here. Ryan Lindgren going to Seattle, former Bruins defenseman prospect, long time with the Rangers, 4 year deal there, 4.5 million. Of course, he was traded to Colorado at the deadline. Pittsburgh Penguins, Wotherspoon, former Bruins defenseman Wotherspoon, heading over there on a 2 year deal, $1 million per season. So a nice contract there for him. And Anthony Mantha, I don't have the particulars, but it looks like Mantha is going to end up there in Pittsburgh as well. And finally, we have Utah making some news here later in the day. Brandon Tanev getting a 3 year deal, $2.5 million per year contract. So be looking for those crazy-eyed pictures with him in a Utah uniform. And newly crowned champion Nate Schmidt leaving Florida. So Florida doesn't get them all back. They don't get them all back. They get him on a 3 year deal, 3.5 million per season. All sorts of other, signings and activity out there. You can go onto Twitter, X, go onto ESPN, Puckpedia. There's all sorts of places to go get that news, but go see what's going on out there. Again, there'll be more news trickling in. We're waiting on the Bo Byram deal. We're waiting on, of course, Nikolai Ehlers. And I think it's Granlund from Dallas is still out there, last I knew, too. So still a few names to be talked about. All right, we're going to turn the page and talk about the Boston Bruins. Of course, they did get some work done over the last few days. Yoki Haru getting redone, 3 year deal, $3 million per season. Beecher done as well. I think I can't remember if that's a 1 or 2 year contract, $900,000 a year for Beecher. Michael DiPietro, a goaltender from the AHL, had a great year last year, earns himself a 2 year contract, $812,500 for him. He was a guy that was going to get picked up. Definitely need that depth. It's great to see. He'll be kind of our number 3 guy. And there's now some talk, do the Bruins move off of Korpisalo and make DiPietro the bona fide backup? There was some chatter, with Edmonton maybe around that, of people thinking maybe Edmonton with their needs at goal, but that hasn't happened yet. Georgiy Merkulov gets a 1 year league minimum contract, $775. Of course, the big one, Geekie, getting the 6-year deal done at 5.5 million per season. Really like this contract. I like the AAV there for a guy who was over 30 goals. Yes, career year. We know that. Is it repeatable? Maybe. Maybe. I think you found some real chemistry with Pasta, and I think it is repeatable. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. I think it's repeatable. I do. I don't know if he's going to be 30 goals every year, but I think he can easily be a 25 goal guy for you playing with, Lindholm and with Pasta. And with the cap going up 6 years, 5.5, I like that because if you lose him, you already needed so much more help in your front six. You just have to now replace another guy, and there's just not many of those guys out there right now. So I really like seeing that one get done. Kustadinov gets done, 2-year deal, 925,000 there for him. So those are some of the deals that get done here before free agency hits. And today we're just going to go through these former Haverhill Mass kid or kid from Haverhill Mass, Jordan Harris, former Montreal Canadian, former Columbus Blue Jacket. Jordan Harris getting done today. A sneaky one here, 1-year deal, 825,000. Going to provide some depth for the organization. He was a nice prospect coming out of Northeastern. Of course, was part of a trade there. Was it the Line A deal? I think it was a Line A deal last year where he was one of the pieces going back to Columbus. It just didn't work out with the Blue Jackets. Not sure why, but he'll provide depth. Maybe you see him in Providence. Maybe he makes the team, but I think he's got some good good ceiling to hit, and happy to see him here. The one that's getting everybody riled up today is Tanner Jeannot, 5-year deal, 3.4 million per season. We'll talk about him in just a moment. Old friend Sean Kuraly, another former Columbus Blue Jacket, coming back to Boston on a 2-year deal, 1.85 million. It just warms my heart to see Kuraly back. He's one of those favorite guys that we kind of hated to lose, but he'll make for a very good member of that fourth line. Michael Asimont also coming over, 2-year deal, 1.45 million for him, and then a couple more here. Alex Steves on a 1-year deal, 850,000, and I'm not going to get this name right, but I think it's Matev Blumel, and I probably mispronounced that. 1-year deal for $875,000. And to start the day off, we do make a big, good size trade here with the Edmonton Oilers, getting Viktor Arvidsson, forward from the Oilers. He has 1 year left on his deal at $4 million. Going back to Edmonton, a 5th-round selection in 2027. All salary retained by Boston, so definitely a salary dump for the Oilers. And really just a guy that Boston needs, right? They needed help here, needed help up front. And Sweeney mentioned this earlier, that they may look at the trade market versus the free agent market. For me, Arvidsson, he's a low-risk deal, only 1 year left, scores on the rush, and he is a volume shooter. What is one thing that we said about this Bruins team last year? Shoot the puck. Just shoot the puck. Stop with all the passing, right? Arvidsson's a guy that's a volume shooter, and they desperately, desperately need that for sure. Listen, worst case scenario, he's lost a step or two, doesn't fit in, and you can move on after a year. But best case scenario, maybe he's a 25 goal guy for you this year. I think, at $4 million a year, 1 year left on the deal, you give up next to nothing for him. If he can be a 22 goals and 50-point guy for you, okay, that's fine, right? I think there's potential there. And listen, he was down the lineup in Edmonton. I think he's going to get more exposure here in Boston and have more of a chance to play in some more of those scoring opportunities. I like it. I like the deal. As for Tanner Jeannot, I don't hate it, but I'm not sure I love the term. The money, the dollars aren't a problem for me. The 3.4, not a problem. 5 years, steep. That's a steep term for a physical type player who's really here to kind of bring the heavy play. And while I may not love it, I understand the contract. I understand it from the Bruins' perspective, and I'm willing to give this a chance. And listen, like I said, almost every voice out of Boston today has predictably been just really negative about some of these moves. I mean, anybody surprised? Anybody surprised by that? No, I'm not surprised. Joe Haggerty seems to be okay with this Jeannot move. I did see some of his comments, but I'm just going to ask you guys, what did you want the team to do? What do you want them to do? Right? I mean, if they're not going to get Boeser, and they didn't, um, and maybe, and I would even say this: if you got Boeser, I mean, I feel like some of these voices would still be negative, right? Because there were a lot of people that didn't want Boeser, but he was one of the two big fish out there. So you don't get Boeser, and if you already know you're probably not in on Ehlers, and I imagine the Bruins probably had a good sense of that at this point, that maybe they weren't going to be in on him. Well, you got to go find other ways to add to your forward group. You know, let's actually see how this looks on the ice instead of just eviscerating Sweeney here July 1st. And listen, you guys know me. I never have a problem eviscerating Sweeney, right? It's one of my hobbies. But let's all take a breath. Let's see how this actually looks once October hits. Again, like with the Arvidsson deal, the team needed forward help. They needed to add some grit. They need to add some physicality to the room. And, if put more into a scoring type of role in Boston, which I think he'll have that opportunity, does he find, does Jeannot find that scoring touch that he had back in Nashville? Back, it was the 21-22 season, the only good real offensive season he had. Yeah, listen, I'm not going to hold my breath because he kind of, I think, is what he is at this point. He's got to do more than what he did in LA last year, but I'm willing to give it a chance. I'm willing to give it a look. Like I say, I'm not thrilled about the 5 years. I don't mind the money piece of it. I would have been fine at 3.4 times three, might have been okay. But five, ugh, you might be buying that thing out if it doesn't age well. But they needed forward help. They just did. I don't mind it, especially if you're not going to be on Ehlers. If you're in on Ehlers, I really hate this move, but I don't think we were close to Ehlers at all. I really don't. That's just my opinion. And in light of that, I think the Bruins have done okay to add a couple of veteran forwards that are going to play in the top nine, going to give you some scoring opportunity, going to give you some grit and physicality. Nothing wrong with that in my eyes. Just the term. It's the only thing I don't like is the term. As for Kuraly and Asamont, low risk guys that should create a very hard to play against fourth line. I am excited about that. Kuraly comes home after spending those last 4 years in Columbus, and I don't mind these two signings at all. I do think it creates a good bit of depth in your bottom six without question. And, we're still very, very early here into free agency, into the offseason. I won't be surprised if Boston has some other trades up their sleeves. We'll just have to wait and see what other news trickles out as July continues on. So, Boston Bruins fans, I'm really curious to hear your thoughts, to know how you feel about these moves today. A lot of negativity online right now about it. I get it. I understand it. I just feel like we really need to temper our expectations for what this team is going to be this year. It's going to be a couple of years. And I am hearing a lot of voices of, man, you're signing all these veterans. You're going to block some of the young guys. Perhaps a little bit, but I also don't want it to look like it did at the end of the year, which was just a bunch of young guys out there running around, hitting each other and, like chickens with their heads cut off, right? It needs to be a little bit more structured. Um, I think it's going to be fine. I think it's going to be fine, but I do think we have to temper our expectations. We're not close to a cup right now. I don't think we're going to be next year. Are we a wild card team? Maybe if everything goes right, maybe we are, but this is a brand new chapter of Bruins hockey. It's not going to be built overnight. Off season still, early. There's still more that can be done, but we just, I think, have to temper our expectations. And I do think that we have to temper expectations today. As much as a Brock Boeser and Ehlers would have looked good here, I wasn't really sure if either one of those would happen. It would have been nice if one could have happened, but in lieu of that, I think they've done okay. And I do think you have a slew of young talent here. I go back to the trade deadline. Last season, I thought Sweeney did an excellent job of acquiring talent, acquiring young players. I think there's a lot to be excited about moving forward. Probably no cup this year, but moving forward, I think we've got the foundation, the building blocks for something special as we go. So, a programming reminder: on Thursday, I will be on here with host of the Bruins Die Hard podcast, Court Lalonde. He's been kind enough to give me some time on Thursday. We're going to review the Bruins draft class from this season and break down all the moves out of Boston from today and any moves that certainly come over the next couple of days. Very much looking forward to talking to him. He does just a wonderful job providing Bruins news and content. If you haven't checked out his podcast, go check that out. Love his production. He does a great, great job. So looking forward to that conversation on Thursday. So everybody, thank you so much for watching and listening. If you do like what you're hearing here, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button down below. Absolutely appreciate it. And until next time, everybody, be kind, show love, and God bless.